this country, I don't think of it as your country anymore because it's a country that's been co-opted. It's a country that's being run, I would say, by deep state and corporate interests rather than a republic or a democracy, whatever term you prefer. I know you guys are very particular about that stuff. In any event, it seems that it's something that's become completely cut off from the will of the people, and possibly that's because it's a propagandist state. I want to show you now how CNN have reported on that federal judgment that the government have to stop interfering in social media. I want to show you how that if this was broadcast anywhere else in the world, if these people happen to be wearing some kind of traditional dress, you would regard it as absolutely outlandish. You would identify it and recognize it for what it is, propaganda. The state are pushing back through the Department of Justice on the recent judgment that they've got to stop interfering in social media posts unless it's criminal activity or matters of national security. They're pushing back on that. Look at how CNN report on this subject and tell me how this differs from propaganda. Have a look.
Just reading the words in this injunction, a, quote, massive effort by the defendants to suppress speech based on content, those are the judge's words, calling the present case, quote, arguably involves the most massive attack against free speech in the United States history, Ellie.
Yeah. It's a dramatic decision by this judge. If you read through it, he's citing to literature and George Washington and Ben Franklin. Here's what...
Those are pretty significant names in American history, and particularly when it comes to constitutional and legislative rights for Americans. Like, why wouldn't you cite those names?
Really is astonishing to me. This is a conservative ideology that clearly comes through in this decision. It's a conservative political ideology, right? We saw some of the...
Is it a conservative political ideology, free speech? When I grew up, free speech was transcendent of party politics. Everyone believed in free speech. Free speech was not on the table as an issue we were discussing. When did free speech become a right-wing issue? When did us being on Rumble become, because Rumble, that's for like far-right hate speech? I don't have no time for hatred. I don't believe in either political party. I believe in your right to run your own life and to run your own community, and I believe in democracy, and I believe that what might be right for me might not be right for you, and what might be right for the communities that I see myself affiliated with might not be right for your communities, and we're going to have different views because we've had different experiences, and if you shut down free speech, you shut down the possibility for conversation. You can't have democracy because you can't have debate and you can't have consensus. What's more, it's pretty plain that many of the issues that were censored incorrectly and illegally, that there's evidence that your rights to free speech, your First Amendment rights, have already been breached. How can CNN report on this matter as if the judgment itself is the problem?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know how you can argue against something. The injunction issued barred government agencies from talking to social media companies for the purpose of, these are the things, urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech. That doesn't, to me, sound like a crazy right-wing, Trump-appointed, mad decision to have made.
Can you come up with an argument for us? Are we missing something? Tell me, like, I can see the argument they're making, but it doesn't make sense. Let me know in the comments and the chat what it is they're trying to say. What is it that they believe in? Is this just pure propaganda now? Have a look.
Questioning vaccines, questioning masks, conservative talking points. But
vaccines and masks, are they conservative talking points? Obviously, we're on YouTube right now. When we're over the road in a second, click the link in the description. We'll get into that stuff in a little more detail. But that's not a political issue. It oughtn't be a political issue. Autonomy, freedom over your own anatomy, freedom over the kind of choices you make. How has these things become politicized? How are some issues becoming amplified? And how are they becoming aggregated and alloyed to particular ideologies? Simply, it seems, in order to dismiss important arguments.
Ruling itself is the opposite of judicial conservatism. This is one of the most aggressive, far-reaching rulings you'll ever see. What this judge is purporting to do is to micromanage, really, the day-to-day interactions between essentially the entire executive branch, all these agencies that are listed as defendants, and the leading social media companies. And
you can't micromanage the government when they're micromanaging you, when you're single, when they're controlling your free speech, when they're controlling and manipulating your free speech. How can they use the term micromanage when they're talking about the government micromanaging your conversation? And as a further irony, there are certain things that I cannot say right now because This censorship is real. And it's ongoing. Why is it happening? What do you think is the future for platforms that make a commitment for free speech without your support? That's why what you do and the decisions you make are integral, fundamental, vital. That's why it's important that you join us in a minute when we come off this platform.
For micromanaging anyone, it would be to micromanage what the government can do. If anything, to be honest, what we've learned the last few years, it would be, yeah, we should micromanage the government.
There's not a point where it's like, you've done so well in the last couple of years, we're going to take the shackles off. This is not a time to run free. You did such a good job of shutting down debate, of censoring authentic voices, of closing down legitimate science. You've done so well. Just have fun with it now.
Yeah.
It's not like
Express
that, is
yourself.
it? Spring break! Censor whatever you want to censor. Shut down whatever you want to shut down some things that are true. Shut down things that you know to be true.
Yeah, and for the, media, for the press to be saying, essentially, the government, your government, who have the ability to do all sorts of things, should be left to it, shouldn't be under any kind of microscope, should not be micromanaged in any way by the public, is incredible that you get that on a mainstream news outlet.
What type of relationship do you want with your government? Do you see it as parental or do you see it as service? I've thought that public officials are meant to be in your service, whether that's legislative, bureaucratic. It's in the service of the people that fund them. It can't be that we are an authoritative structure that controls you like a parent. That's what to believe in censorship, you have to believe that you yourself or that others are incapable of discerning truth from fiction, making decisions that you believe are valid, or you are inclined towards authoritarianism and want the ability to shut down opposition. That is not democracy. That is not freedom. That is repackaged tyranny. What that smacks of to me is that the lessons of the last century have been learned in so much as the aesthetics of totalitarianism have altered. No more jackboots, no more flags, but the ability to control is being veiled. It is being, I would say, sprinkled in saccharin, lubricated with sophistry and fine words.
Yeah, and once again, CNN, the mouthpiece of the state, is doing what a lot of its critics say it does, and it's doing exactly that here.
CNN bundling your data more than pornography would, selling it more than pornography would. So next time you're making a decision, CNN or the saucy stuff, now you know.
In the actual temporary injunction, the judge basically says you're not allowed, administration, to talk to these social media companies about any protected free speech except for cybersecurity threats, national security threats, criminal threats. But where's the line?
There, that's the line,
Yeah.
except for national security and criminality. That's a perfectly good line. Let me know in the comments in the chat if you think that there's a problem with that line, if there's anything wrong with it.
Stay free with Russell Brand. See it first on Rumble.